All right, welcome to Department of Labor and Beer. This is our second episode. We got Pork Chop, Bo, Moto, and our guest today is Jason Smith. Thanks for joining us today, Jason.
No worries, no problem.
All right, so I'm going to start you guys off with a little news today. A passenger on a Chinese flight, everybody's a little nervous when they fly, I get it. So in order for her to have a little bit of good luck, she did something that Asians do a lot of. They use coinage. They'll keep it, or they'll carry certain coins. This woman, first flight, she decides that she's going to throw those coins into the engine of the airplane.
Right on. Perfect.
So I am looking at 5 guys going through the engine, digging out a handful of Chinese coins.
Oh, it's China?
Yeah.
I know they have TVs. That I do know.
But she's an 80-year-old Asian woman. She probably had no idea what the hell was going on.
So did they start the engine? Did they try to fly? Or?
The flight was severely delayed, and they had to dig all those coins out and check the engine for damage.
No duh.
It must have been like a smaller plane, because usually you're going to the terminal and...
No, that's not... On a lot of the Asian airlines, they don't have enough terminals for the amount of planes that they have. So, like last time I was in Japan, we actually had to go out onto the runway where a 747-400 was warming up.
Wow.
They brought us out there. And I remember this very distinctly because somebody had a cat, and this cat was fucking freaking out in this cat carrier because the engines are just, they're winding up. It's all loud and it's hot, and not a good idea for a cat to be out on the runway.
Poor Fluffy.
Yeah, poor Fluffy. Put him downstairs.
So, one more. Police in Thousand Oaks, California used DNA in an unflushed toilet to finger a burglary suspect.
To finger a burglary? Wait, what's going on here?
I'm going to let you explain that real quick. I'm not going to say that.
Andrew David Jensen, 42, was arrested on July 28th on suspicion of committing a burglary. Detectives managed to sniff out the suspect after they found some fecal matter in a toilet at the crime scene, and later tested it for DNA.
That's a shitty job.
So he breaks into this poor person's place and then takes a shit, and I'm guessing doesn't flush.
Well, we know he didn't wash his hands either. So.
Damn. I don't know how you could do that.
How old are you, Jason?
I am 41 now.
So, where'd you grow up? Are you from around here?
No, I am a Parkland Spanaway baby.
Okay.
41 years of it. Well, I guess half of that, because I moved to a university place to get away from the drugs, the crime, and to keep my stereo in my car. Jesus, everybody in Spanaway got a wrench, and they loved to use it on my car.
So, Chris was telling me you grew up, you had military parents or parents in the military?
So my mom, she was a civilian, but worked in high classified areas, hazardous waste and weapons and shipping of weapons. She didn't really get too deep into it because she couldn't talk about it really my whole life, so I just knew that she worked in a room. I actually had to show up one day. The room had barbed wire inside the room. I'm not sure why. Most people try to get in, not out. But and my dad, he was Air Force, local business owner down in Ruston for a long time. He passed away, I would say 15 years ago. God, he just lived life to the fullest. Just hoping to. Well, I already try to do that every day, but my liver can't handle that.
Right.
And thank you guys for helping my liver out today.
So was that kind of his thing, drinking, like living life to the fullest? What do you mean?
He was a serious partier. So we had money, but not a lot of it, just give or take. So there was no babysitters. So I usually stayed at work with my dad, and he went to after work parties and just wreck shop there. Dance floors, parties. I thought it was a lifestyle to live.
So when you were growing up with your dad, and he would take you to work with him or whatever, did they ever let you stay at home? And what age when you started just being a latchkey kid?
I think I was about 11 or 12 when I started staying at home by myself. Dude, kids just roamed the streets. It wasn't like I was at home.
Right.
It was all forest wood, so we just build forts, ride motorcycles, ride horses, and A lot of potato guns.
Of course. Well, you don't see that nowadays. Like, I feel like even, and I'm only 28, I feel like even when I was young, people would just let your kid, like I would run around the town, run around the city all day. I had to be home by dark or by a certain time for dinner,
Uh-huh.
Now you don't really see kids running around the same amount. It's
No.
almost like everybody's scared.
Yeah, we keep my kids on a real tight leash. We moved into a gated community.
Okay.
And even then, still kind of paranoid when you let the girls go out. My son, I was kind of more relaxed on, but with the age difference on him, life was different. I mean, you could run for days and nobody would mess with your kids. Now, you might have somebody with a drone or a cell phone taking compromising pictures of your kids. So it just freaks me out as a parent. I don't know how a lot of people do it, but I guess move out into the woods or, further out from the city is what you need to do.
So is it more, do you think it's more of like that the world is much more a dangerous place than it was when we were younger or back in the old times? Or is it because we hear about everything? I mean, we're constantly connected to the internet. You hear about every kid that's kidnapped. You get a Amber Alert on your phone, every time.
I think you're right on the spot with the internet thing because the only way to get information was off the news. And you'd have to be in front of your TV set. Now you have supplies of useless news now. You hear about kids getting taken and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it paranoids the crap out of you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I take extra measures to protect my kids and keep them inside and keep an eye on them more than my mom even did. And I thought she was super protective or overprotective of me growing up as a child.
And she was right to do so.
Right.
Because, I got in trouble. Coming home late, finding parties, and most of my friends live in Spanaway, and I lived in Parkland, so it was a 30-minute walk or bike ride because my parents weren't into me having a car. And really, I think I would have got a DUI if I got a car when everybody else got their car. 16 is when you start driving. I waited till I was 22 to get my driver's license. This still haunts me to this day. So this cat's throwing a party at his house. I mean, it's like a week-long party, and I'm there every day kicking it. He killed his parents, and they're in the hallway closet.
The same time the party's going on?
The same time the party's going on, the whole week.
Parents are dead in the
The
closet.
parents are in the closet hanging up. So my mom calls me. She's like, well, you haven't been hanging out in Silicon, have you? I'm like, yeah, of course not, Mom. Why? Because they just found like 2 parents dead in a closet, and this guy's throwing parties every week. I'm like, oh, shit. I mean, I was 7 days a week drinking, smoking weed, hanging out with the boys. Held down a steady job, but the money went to my partying lifestyle. I mean, I stayed away from the drugs by, I don't know how, luck, I guess. I mean, I saw it, but it just wasn't my thing. I think I can control my alcohol better than anything else, because in our family, most people you heard that they have an alcohol problem, but we like have a bad luck of drugs in our family. So my uncle decided to smoke crack one night, shoots his girlfriend in the head, then shoots himself in the head. Come to find out, she's pregnant. The baby lived through everything.
What?
Miraculously, I don't know how, but
So I'm interested. You were saying your uncle smoked crack one night, so that was his first time smoking
that
crack?
was his first time smoking crack.
And he shot his girl in the head,
Shot
so
his
your
girl in the
aunt,
head, yeah.
and then shot himself in the head, and the baby survived. So did she survive? Your aunt?
They put her in a coma
Okay.
until, because I think she had like 2 months before the baby was due. So she was in a coma
Wow.
for that long until said time.
Is that your niece or nephew?
Yes, but I have never met them.
But they're still doing good.
They're still doing good.
Oh, wow.
My mom keeps in contact with everybody, but I just stay away from it because of the fact of the drugs. Detroit has nothing going on, so I mean, it's the family I do have there. They're mostly retired, so they have their money, they have their houses, and they're doing all right. And my cousins, well, they need to slow their roll. That's about it.
They're in hard times.
Yeah.
Yeah, thug life, I guess,
And then my aunt, so it was, I think, New Year's. She works with a phone company. She shoots at her own phone line and has to call into work and tell them what happened. So they had to come and fix her own phone line working for the phone company. And but that's a Detroit lifestyle for you, though. I went to Detroit maybe 10 years ago. Looked like the biggest tourist in the world. Where are you from? You got a different accent. I'm like, where are you from? You have a funny accent. Not the place. I mean, if you love Detroit, you love Detroit. But it's not the place to visit. Not for me.
Well, I know they have a lot of financial issues and unemployment issues there ever since, Ford has taken a dive and jobs are moving across the world or whatever, right? I mean, It's got a lot of ghetto there, right?
They have nice areas, but they're few and in between. So,
Right.
I mean, it's not like Washington. I mean, you're going to see your homeless there. Or here. There, it's like every other block you'll see something. I mean, I saw this guy's house. It's held up by 2x4s. I'm just like, oh. But I don't understand. He's got a brand new car sitting in the driveway.
Right.
I mean, cars are gone in 60 seconds. A house, you kind of got to live there, rest your hat there, raise your family there. And I guess some people's or the way they want to do things is a lot different than what I think.
Right.
So I'll roll a beater in a heartbeat and have a nice house.
100%. Well, I feel like anybody that wants to get a car, whether you're homeless or what, they'll give you a car on credit if you can come up with a certain down payment or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of that when I'm driving through like ghetto neighborhoods, and I'm surprised to see like the 2017 Cadillac Escalade at the at
Middle
the
of the projects.
Yeah, in the middle of the projects. It's like, what are you doing, man? Get out of here and then buy an Escalade or something if that's what you want. But
yeah, don't go $80,000 before you have a house. That's I don't want to call anybody a retard because I mean, hey, do what you do, but just know cars aren't forever.
right.
But being in Parkland, that can't be your only experience with drugs. Like I grew up in Lakewood, and you're a little bit older than I am, but I was growing up right during the meth craze in Lakewood, and then shit was just off the chain at that point. Like people were stealing everything that wasn't tied down. Like the entire reason why you can't get decent cough medicine these days is basically because of the meth craze.
Lakewood was crazy back in the day. I mean, I went to a few parties out there because I was right in like the Clover Park area.
Right.
And I had older friends that ran with certain gangs out there, and it just never... I just like being me. By the grace of God, I just didn't click with all that stuff.
Well, for me, it was, was seeing all these people around me that were, constantly, like, dying. Like, I saw my first heroin overdose when I was 13. I was sitting at my friend's house, and his uncle's girlfriend hit her head against the cabinet, went into a seizure, and my buddy's like, we gotta get the fuck out of here. The ambulance showed up, and she was, like, dead on the spot. And we would constantly see, like, his uncle with heroin needles passed out. He had the nods passed out. And
see, I am terrified of needles.
yeah,
I have not a single tattoo because I'm so terrified of needles.
But because I kept seeing all that stuff around me, that's what pushed me out of there. Like, I didn't want to have anything to do with that stuff. So by the time I was 18, I wanted to be as far out of that town as absolutely possible, just to have something normal.
Yeah, I pretty much think we're in the same shoe with that, because that's why I moved out to University Place. I heard it was nice. It's got its little quirks. I mean, pretty much after 9:30, the only place open is Cheers. Woohoo! Then wobbled home from that place a few times.
So that might be the difference between some people. Some people learn from experience, and then some people learn from the mistakes of other people. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I agree on that.
Yeah, I'm a learn
there's
from
two different
experience
kinds of
type of dude,
people.
It takes me making the mistake and learning on my own.
Right. And I'm
But
the same way.
I also didn't grow up seeing like people overdose on the couch, or I grew up in a middle class. I lived with my mom until I was 13, and then I lived with my dad. They divorced when I was 2, and I just never saw anything like that. My mom wasn't an alcoholic.